Hello and welcome to What the F Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Monday, January 11th, 2021. Welcome to day 1453. House Democrats introduced an article of impeachment against Trump for incitement of insurrection regarding his role in the riots at the Capitol that left 5 people dead last week. The 4-page impeachment article charges Trump with inciting violence against the government of the United States. Nancy Pelosi said the House will vote to impeach Trump on Wednesday if Mike Pence doesn't seek to remove him under the 25th Amendment, or if Trump doesn't resign first. The impeachment resolution currently has at least 218 co-sponsors, enough to ensure that it passes, which would make Trump the first president in U.S. history to be impeached twice. While it's unlikely that the Senate will hold a trial before Trump leaves office on January 20th, a conviction after his term ends would still prevent Trump from holding federal office again. Earlier, during a pro forma session, Democrats attempted to pass a measure by unanimous consent calling on Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Trump, but House Republicans blocked the request. Pence reportedly has not ruled out invoking the 25th Amendment, but says he wants to preserve the option in case Trump becomes more unstable. Meanwhile, White House counsel Pat Cipollone and former Attorney General William Barr warned Trump against pardoning himself. Trump was advised that he could potentially face civil liability for his role in inciting the attack on the Capitol by encouraging his supporters to storm Congress. The federal investigation into the insurrection has put the entire pardon process on hold, meaning people who have been lobbying Trump for pardons in the past, including Rudy Giuliani, may not receive one. Meanwhile, the FBI warned law enforcement agencies of possible armed protests at all 50 state capitals and at the U.S. Capitol starting on January 16th. The FBI has also received information about a group calling for the storming of state, local, and federal government courthouses and administrative buildings if Trump is removed from office prior to Biden's inauguration. The bulletin says they have warned that if Congress attempts to remove POTUS via the 25th Amendment, a huge uprising will occur. Twitter, meanwhile, permanently banned Trump due to the risk of further incitement of violence. The decision came after Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, Twitch, Reddit, and other internet platforms made similar decisions. Twitter said 2 tweets in particular that Trump had posted, one calling his supporters patriots, and another saying that he would not go to Biden's inauguration, were highly likely to encourage and inspire people to replicate the criminal acts that took place at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Trump then tried to evade the ban by using the @POTUS Twitter account to send 4 tweets complaining that Twitter has gone further and further in banning free speech, accusing Twitter employees of coordinating with Democrats to silence me. The Trump campaign's Twitter account was also permanently banned after it shared the same 4-tweet thread that Trump had attempted to post from the POTUS account. Twitter also removed the accounts of Michael Flynn, Sidney Powell, and other supporters of Trump who promote the QAnon conspiracy theory. Trump reportedly went ballistic after getting banned and losing direct access to his more than 88 million followers. In December, Trump urged Georgia's lead elections investigator to find the fraud in a phone call, saying the official would be a national hero if he did. That call was separate from another Trump call to Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, when Trump pressured him to find enough votes to overturn the state's presidential elections. On December 23rd, Trump called the investigations chief for the Georgia Secretary of State's office and attempted to intervene in Raffensperger's ongoing investigation into allegations that Cobb County election officials had accepted mail-in ballots with signatures that didn't match those they had on file. State officials ultimately concluded that the allegations had no merit. Since Election Day, Trump has made at least 3 calls to government officials in Georgia in an attempt to overturn Biden's victory. And finally, about 2% of the U.S. population has now been vaccinated for COVID-19 since the FDA approved the first 2 vaccine candidates a month ago. The U.S. 7-day average of coronavirus-related deaths, meanwhile, now exceeds 3,000 people per day. In a letter to Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar, Senate Democrats demanded that the Trump administration correct its significant failures in the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines, saying the U.S. cannot afford for this vaccination campaign to continue to be hindered by the lack of planning, communication, and leadership we have seen so far. The Trump administration set a goal of inoculating 20 million Americans by the end of December, but only 9 million have received their first dose, despite nearly 25.5 million doses that have been distributed. Biden has promised 100 million shots in his first 100 days. And in the polls, Quinnipiac and the New York Times say 74% of voters say democracy in the United States is under threat. 56% say they hold Trump responsible for the mob that stormed the Capitol. And Reuters and ABC News say 57% of Americans want Trump to be immediately removed from office after he encouraged his supporters to riot inside the Capitol. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditas.